I build those Roman roads, and your taxes pay for those. Bad news for you consuls, who made new laws for Rome. All those I can veto, the Republic's days are through.
Salvete omnes, salvete amici, nomen mihi est decumus Aurelius Ingeniarius, legatus pro praetorae Australiae et tribunis plebis. Greetings, hello, welcome everybody to the Roman Twitch channel here at Ost Nova Roma. So glad to have you all back, and I'm certainly glad to be here for this new year 2021 or 2774 AUC in the year of our city. What a year last year was. It's great to be in a fresh year. So starts the season where we have to learn to write the new date. How often does it take you? How long does it take you to learn to write the new year, 21 in this instance? We'll see how long it takes me. Look, you know, we are continuing to host all sorts of Roman-themed content on this channel. I thought we might start the year with a little bit of Latin and learning Latin. So I've taken some informal Latin lessons through my Nova Roma community, and we're using some texts called Lingua Latina per se Illustrata, some books by a gentleman by the name of Hans H. Orberg, and these books are unique in that they're completely in Latin. So you could essentially be any sort of language speaker. You could be speaking Dutch, French, English, and the way that these books, I guess, are designed is to help you understand the words through affiliations. It's very carefully written by this Orberg, I guess a bit of an expert. So that you get pick up the understanding as you're reading through what is essentially a story about a family, and it's teaching you the vocabulary and the use of sentence structure and wording with little grammar notes in the margins, but it's all completely in Latin. But somehow you find yourself learning the language and growing your vocabulary as you go through. Really extraordinary. So I've done a chapter and a half so far of the books that we're going to be looking at this evening, I've really taken to it. It's been actually quite good. Like, up until now, I've been using the Duolingo app. Recently, the Latin language came out in beta on Duolingo. If you're not using Duolingo, it's a free language app, and it's not bad. There are some areas of improvement, but in terms of getting a taste of Latin, Duolingo was not a bad way to go, unless you're self-teaching yourself from another set of textbooks like Wheellock's Latin, for example, which I've also dabbled with. Now, just to set the benchmark for everybody watching the stream, I have not, I'm not versed in Latin at all. I'm very, very much a beginner. That's why I'm taking the lessons online. And why I'm doing some study, and I thought I might share my study sessions with you so we can practice particularly the pronunciation, or you can correct me on my pronunciation. What we're doing is we're going to be heading to YouTube, and perhaps you can go along as well. You need to look up a gentleman by the name of, it goes by the username ScorpioMartianus. He is a very, very highly regarded Latin speaker, and many Latinists that I've come across very much value his Latin pronunciation, and he actually narrates these books. So we use his YouTube videos, or I'm certainly going to use his YouTube videos here, listen to him and how he pronounces the words, and I will give that a whirl, give that a go as well, and you at home can certainly try your pronunciation. And as we step through, we're going to be trying to pick up to see if we can, in fact, translate the sentences on the fly. And so the book strategically uses sentences and introduces words in a particular way, but also uses illustrations to help us understand what the writing means and what's happening in the text. Absolutely fantastic. Now, I have my fan going on in the background here. Hopefully it's not affecting our audio too much this evening. If it is a bit bothersome, let me know. It's a very warm, very hot evening here on the southeastern coast of Australia. It's in fact quite warm in through various parts here. I think we had some fires not too far away, but they were controlled, thankfully. So yeah, it's been a pretty warm day, and we're expecting a pretty warm evening as well. So that's why I've got the fan on. So, but if the fans a bother, particularly if we're talking about pronunciation, I'm happy to sit here and sweat it out in my my little Roman studio, my little Roman forum here. Anyway, I think that's enough introductions. Great to have you on. If you are watching the channel, please, we'd very much appreciate your follow. Support. We're looking to grow our initial follower base so we can continue to grow this channel and bring in more content from various creators associated with the Nova Roma community, not just from Australia but from right around the world and all the Nova Roma provinces. A good friend of mine, C. Aurelius Ingeniarius from Germania, he'll often stream to this channel as well. Various both politically themed content but also various games such as Total War Attila, so keep an eye out for those if you like those sort of games. But tonight it's all about Latin and learning the Latin language. So let's cross ahead now to the YouTube video. Hopefully you can see that as well. I'm going to activate the desktop audio so you can hear our good friend from the YouTube channel. So just a reminder, that YouTube channel is ScorpioMartianus, and he's got all the chapters narrated in a playlist on his channel. Check him out, give him a subscribe. This is where we're going to be learning along with this evening. So, Lingua Latina per Illustrata, and we're going to be doing chapter 1, which is introducing Imperium Romanum. Let's hand over to our friend. Now I'm going to be stopping and starting this quite regularly so we can analyze the text, try our own pronunciations, but also try and translate as well. We can talk about all the grammar notes in the columns as well to really get a feel of what's happening. So let's let him introduce the book and let's go from there. Very exciting. Here we go. We're going to press the play button. That's better. I don't know if you can hear that. Let's put the desktop audio on. You wouldn't have heard that. Now you should be able to hear this. Here we go. No, I have a suspicion that you can't hear the desktop audio. So let's just make sure. I know why, because I have it feeding through in a different measure. I think so. Let's make sure that that's all set up correctly. So we're going to add a new, for those who haven't used OBS before. So we're doing some changes on the fly to our audio. So normally desktop audio will just come through from your computer and feed through to OBS. Now there could be a permissions issue, or it's because I'm using a different feeding, a different channel through here. So I wonder if we can in fact go add, and we're going to go an audio output capture, and we're going to create a new one here. I'm going to press OK. So this is a good lesson for all doing OBS. So we've got one here called speakers, and this is connected to my microphone setup. So I have the sound coming through my headset here. So we're actually going to select the speakers, quote unquote, associated with my microphone software, and see how that goes. So if I hit play here again, let's see if we can have our gentleman talk us through.
Hans Hauerberg.
So you can certainly hear that. That's actually quite loud. We'll turn him down just a little bit. That's better. So you'll now be able to hear everything that I'm hearing as well. That's good, because I'd like you to be able to hear what's going on, particularly because his pronunciation is much better. That was good. All right, great little OBS lesson to begin with. Okay, let's continue on.
Lingua Latina per se illustrata. Pars prima.
The first of many pauses. Right, so you can actually buy these. I bought them as ebooks. I think that's the best way to go here. If you're not into ebooks yet, look, Amazon does a great service, and they have I guess their equivalent ebook reader. What's it called off the top of my head? I haven't been using it very long. Let's see how quickly I can pull up the app on my cellular device here. Oh, it's called Kindle, of course. Now you can actually get specific Kindle devices which connect to your Amazon account, and you can read your ebooks through too. But you can read ebooks on any device. Could be a mobile, could be a PC, a laptop. And if you've got the associated Amazon account that you've purchased your ebooks through, you can read those books just fine. Perhaps works best on a Kindle. There might be other third-party software, I think, that can read the files potentially, but I haven't experimented with that yet. But if you do know, I'd like to hear from you. But yeah, I recommend buying these ebooks. You can buy this, and there's also a grammar guide which accompanies this as well. So if you look up Orberg and Lingua Latina, or this Familia Romana, you'll see some associated ebooks with that. Pretty cheap, anywhere between $20 and $30 US, which is quite a good price for what is quite a hefty book, which does a great job of teaching you Latin. So anyway, thought I might point that out.
Prima, Familia Romana. Capitulum primum. Imperium Romanum. Roma in Italia est.
Okay, so here we are. We are starting. So I just wanted to point out this picture to begin with, and it's pointing out some key things for us. I'm just making sure we're not getting too much feedback. I'm going to turn my mic down just a little bit. So I just want you not getting too much background noise from my fan. But hopefully you can still hear me clearly. Right, so this picture is important because it's introducing 3 words for us here. We've got insula, oppidum, and fluvius, which we can obviously translate and work out to be island, like city or town, and river. Or appears to be river. I was going to say creek, but that looks a bit, but judging by the size of the boat, so that looks to be about river size. So that's great. So it looks like we're probably going to be relying on those words, at least in this first section here, under Imperium Romanum. And he's just read his first sentence, Roma in Italia est. Let's let him continue on a little bit and we'll talk some more.
Italia in Europa est. Graecia in Europa est. Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt.
Okay, good place to talk through. So let's try our pronunciation out. So I've got Roma in Italia est, Italia in Europa est, Graecia in Europa est, Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt. So we've got nothing to suggest what that is in English, but we can make some assumptions about what's being sent here. So Roma is pretty obvious. I think we can all agree that's Rome. And we see Italia. We can very much assume that's Italy. And we've got the other 2 words there, in and est. So we can deduce that very first sentence there in the first line is Rome is in Italy. So we can run with, yep, in means the same as it does in English. In and est is essentially is. So Rome in Italy it is, if you were to try and translate that directly, but right, Rome is in Italy. And that's good, so that already gives us some context for the following sentences. So, Italia in Europa est, Italy is in Europe. I think that's, again, pretty obvious. So it uses some very obvious Latin to English translations, perhaps a little bit easier, I think, maybe for English speakers, but I don't know any other languages, perhaps, say, like Bahasa, for example. It'd be interesting to see how that translates into other languages and how easily people pick that up. But so we can say Italy is in Europe. Great, that's simple enough there. The next line, Graecia in Europa est. Graecia, again, we appear to be talking about cities and countries. So Graecia, pretty sure we can mean is Greece, and Greece is in Europe. So we've talked about how Rome is in Italy, Italy is in Europe, and Greece is in Europe. And then we have Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt. So we introduced a new word, sunt, here. So we see Italia et Graecia in Europa, so Italy and Greece, and we know that the next part's talking about being in Europe, and sunt we can assume by logical sentence structure means are, so when we're talking about more than one object in a sentence, so et, I guess, meaning and, so we have Italy and Greece are in Europe. Look at us, we've already learned a couple of words already, purely based on just what we're reading here. Now, we go over, you can see my cursor on screen, yeah you can. So over in the columns, as we read through the book, you'll know some grammar notes. And as my magistra, my Latin teacher, has been informing me, these are really important for understanding some critical rules in Latin. And the first one here is talking about Italia. So we see two different endings for Italia. We see the normal A ending as we would expect it to see, but then we see the one with the dash above the letter, which I understand to be a Macron or a Macron, depending on how you want to pronounce that. I'm thinking of the little cafe biscuits, a Macron. Is that how it's pronounced? And we see the relationship when that occurs. So if it's just Italia on its own, it's just a normal ending. But if we're saying in Italia, we appear to want to change that ending with the Macron, which I guess elongates the vowel sound a little bit. So we've got Italia and Italia, a little bit elongated. And as we listen to the gentleman who's speaking on the YouTube video, we can just detect that slight variation in how he pronounces it. So I guess, when we're talking about in Italia or a relationship to Italy, I guess we're changing that ending. All right, so there's that rule, our first rule that we have to remember in this particular case. Right, let's continue on.
Hispania quoque in Europa est. Hispania et Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt.
All right, let's try that ourselves. Hispania quoque in Europa est. Hispania et Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt. So we have another new word, a pronoun. Thank you very much there for the follow. Welcome to the Roman channel this evening. Would like to see you. Do you speak Latin? Tell us a little bit about yourself. So we're learning Latin from the Lingua Latina book series this evening. It's all in Latin. There's no English or any other translation, but you can deduce the meaning purely by reading the text. So we're up to this sentence here where we've just been introduced the word Hispania. And look, we essentially know that to be translated to Spain, for those that have come across that before. And I think in Spanish there is a very similar wording or spelling, correct me if I'm wrong, which, there's that derivative there. So Hispania means Spain. So we can say Spain something, and there's this new word here, quoque, in Europa est. So we can make some deductions based on the previous sentences. We're talking about how some other cities and countries are in particular locations, and now we start talking about Spain. So we can work out that quoque probably means also. So we see here that Spain is also in Europe. And we finish with Spain and Italy and Greece are in Europe. So that's a good couple of first words that we've added to our vocabulary just in the first paragraph, which is great. So let's look at the grammar note over on the right-hand side here. We see est, sunt. Let's understand, I guess, the relationship between est, so we work that to be is, and sunt to mean are, A-R-E. And we have Italia in Europa est, so we know that to be Italy is in Europe. And then we see Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt. So that's reminding us of the relationship when we're talking about more than one object in the sentence. We need to say sunt. So, and that's the same correct grammar as in English as well. So when there's more than one thing, we say there are these things. If we're talking about one thing, it is est. So that's reinforcing the relationship between est and sunt for us. Okay, let's hear him continue on with line 5, chapter 1. Here we go.
Aegyptus in Europa non est. Aegyptus in Africa est. Gallia non in Africa est. Gallia est in Europa.
Okay, our first 2 lines here in the new world. So again, we're talking about cities and countries, and we see this new word, a pronoun, Aegyptus, a very fascinating word, and I certainly would have gotten that wrong in pronunciation had it wouldn't been for our guide here in the YouTube video. Aegyptus, for those who don't know, is Egypt, and that is, I guess, the Roman or the Latin name for what was eventually a province, at least by the late Roman Republic, if I'm not mistaken. And we see here, he says, Aegyptus in Europa non est, and non is a new word for us here. And we certainly know that Egypt is not in Europe, so we can deduce that non means not, or the negative of something. So Egypt is not in Europe, and the sentence goes on to say, Aegyptus in Africa est. Pretty sure we can know what that new word is. Africa is Africa, the continent, so we can say that Egypt is in Africa. Great, simple enough. Right, let's move on to that second line. So it says, Gallia non in Africa est, Gallia est in Europa. So a new pronoun, Gallia, That sounds very similar to those that know the history. Gaul, Gaul, which we can call French for the ease of translation, which is not quite the same as Gaul, but perhaps an early predecessor. So Gallia is not in Africa, and we know that to be true, and it backs it up by saying Gallia is in fact in Europe. So Gallia is in Europe. Great. Carrying on.
Syria non est in Europa, sed in Asia. Arabia quoque in Asia est. Syria et Arabia in Asia sunt.
Okay, now this one's pretty easy. It's the exact same as in English. Syria, pronounced in Latin Syria, at least what I'm deducing from the video. If you think it's slightly different, please try and phonetically spell it for me in chat. That's what we're here for. Syria non est in Europa, sed in Asia. So Syria is not in Europe, and we see this word sed. Now, have we come across sed yet? No, we haven't. But judging by the sentence structure and what we're talking about here, we can deduce it to be the word but in English. So it's but, it is in Asia. But in Asia. So Syria is not in Europe, but in Asia, which makes sense. It is Asia Minor, it is in Asia. And then it goes on to say, Arabia quoque in Asia est. Arabia, so the region of Arabia, that's pretty easy to deduce. That quoque, which means also, is in Asia. So yes, it is. Syria et Arabia in Asia sunt. Syria and Arabia are in Asia. So it's just reinforcing what we've learnt there, rearranging and changing the sentence structure slightly using the sunt and the multiple objects in the sentence. So we're continuing to learn and understand the relationship between est and sunt. That's very good. Continuing on.
Germania non in Asia, sed in Europa est. Britannia quoque in Europa est. Germania et Britannia sunt in Europa.
Nice. And here's another new location, Germania. I'll give you 0 seconds to work out what that is. So that will be essentially what is Germany. That will be Germanic areas. So that could modern day effectively include places in Austria, etc. So for the ease of translation, we could say Germany, or for what it is, Germania. And it's saying non in Asia, sed in Europa est. So Germany or Germania is not in Asia, but is in Europe. And I agree. I very much agree. And then another new location, Britannia. Again, that should be pretty easy. Britain, the Isle of Britain. Quoque in Europa est, Germania et Britannia sunt Europa. So Britannia is also in Europe. I agree. Well, probably less so now that it's separated from the European Union, but that's a different subject. And then it says, Germania et Britannia sunt in Europa. So Germania, the location, and et Britannia, the other location, are in Europe. Agreed. All right, let's continue on. We're doing well so far.
Est ne Gallia in Europa? Gallia in Europa est. Est ne Rome in Gallia? Roma in Gallia non est.
Okay, our next new word, estne. Estne Gallia in Europa. Gallia in Europa est. So it appears to be, well, we can judge that by the question mark, but there is a question and then what appears to be an answer in the line here. Now we look at the grammar note on the right hand side now here. We're seeing that the NE ending has been introduced here to what is the word est. We know est means is, or is translated for us for is, and the NE has been added on. So what it's telling us is equal to a question. So it's becoming a question. So is Gallia in Europa? Is Gallia in Europe? That is the question, and then we see the answer in the following sentence here. Gallia in Europa est. Gallia is in Europe. Right, so there is estne, and we see that phrased again in the next line with a new topic. Estne Roma in Gallia. Is Rome in Gallia? And we already know the answer to that based on the very first line of this chapter. And they say Roma in Gallia non est. Rome is not in Gallia. Non being the no or not that we learned just above. Okay, moving on.
Ubi est Roma? Roma est in Italia. Ubi est Italia? Italia in Europa est. Ubi sunt Gallia et Hispania? Gallia et Hispania in Europa sunt.
Okay, we have a new word here, ubi. So ubi est Roma, Roma est in Italia. So ubi, and it's phrased as a question here, we see with the question mark, is, we can work out, based on the answer that we're given, is ubi means where. So where is Rome? And it says Roma est in Italia. Rome is in Italy, and that is definitely the case. So then we ask, ubi est Italia? Where is Italy? And then we can answer, Italia in Europa est. Italy is in Europe. And then we ask another question about somewhere else. Ubi sunt Gallia et Hispania? Where is Gallia and Hispania, or Gallia and Spain? Where are, which is probably the correct, that is the correct grammar in English as well. So where are Gallia? Where is? I think you'd say where is. Yeah, you'd say where is in English, maybe, or that would be what you hear commonly. But perhaps grammatically, even correct in English, it should be are. But certainly here in Latin, it should be. So when we're talking about more than one object, it is are, which is the sunt. And we know that sunt doesn't always has to be at the end. Latin seems to have a free-flowing sentence structure. There's not a really good structure like there is in English. So where are Gallia and Spain? And we can answer that question in the very next line here. Gallia et Hispania in Europa sunt. Gallia and Spain are in Europe. Great. Very good. All right. Let's move on. We're still doing very well.
Est ne nilus in Europa? Nilus in Europa non est. Ubi est Nilus? Nilus in Africa est. Rhenus ubi est? Rhenus est in Germania. Nilus fluius est. Rhenus fluius est.
Okay, so we're asking in this last paragraph here, esne, so we're asking a question, esne nilus in Europa. So a new pronoun, nilus. We can only deduce it's probably a location, because we've been talking about nothing but locations up until now, or a place or a thing. So we're asking rather, esne, because that's is as a question, is the Nilus, or is Nilus in Europe? Now, for those who are sneaky and know the geography, you'll probably translate and work out Nilus is Nile, so I guess we're talking about the river here. And let's answer the question in the next line. So Nilus in Europa non est, all words that we know bar perhaps Nilus. So we're saying that, right, the Nilus is not in Europe, or the Nile, cheating ahead, the Nile is not in Europe. Okay, there's a clue. So we ask the question, ubi est Nilus? Where is the Nile? Nilus in Africa est. So there's a big clue. So we know that the Nilus, the Nile, is in Africa. And to back that up, he introduces a new word. So Rhenus. Rhenus ubi est, and we see a different sentence structure here. Ubi is not necessarily at the start, like we see up here and here, but it's in fact in the middle of the sentence. So we start with Rhenus as the object of the sentence. Rhenus ubi est, where is the Rhine? And we see that Rhenus est in Germania. So this location, this place is in Germany. So here we go. So we're getting some clarity about what these new words are. So it says Nilus fluvius est and Rhenus fluvius est. Now if we looked at the picture above, and for those that missed the start of the stream, we looked at an image which is at the top of the page here on page 7. Fluvius we deduced to be river based on that image. So, and we know that est is, so therefore we can say here and translate directly that Nilus is a river and Rhenus is a river. Fluvius meaning river. Great. Let's move on.
Nilus et Rhenus flui sunt. Danuius quoque fluius est. Rhenus et Danuius sunt flui in Germania. Tiberis fluius in Italia est.
Right. So there's a new grammar rule that's coming into play here. We're going to have a look at this, but let's read and have a go at pronunciation of this first line. Nilus et Rhenus flui sunt. Nilus et Rhenus flui sunt, where V's are pronounced as W in classical Latin. And then we see Danuius quoque fluius est. So we're saying that the Nile and the Rhine, and this looks very similar to that word we saw before, which means river. And if we read that, we say, right, that must mean rivers, if we were to translate into English, a plural. And if we actually have a look over here, this grammar note will confirm that for us. So we see two endings, us, fluius, and I, flui. So Nilus fluius est, so the Nile is a river. And then we see Nilus et Rhenus flui sunt. So the plural of fluius is flui, and we can deduce that from the grammar note and the way that it's being written. So it's through osmosis slowly teaching us the plural of the word river, which is fluius. Great. So let's continue on. So we see Danuius quoque fluius est. The Danube, which I believe is the translation here, but Danuius is also a river, fluius. There's the singular. And we can say Rhenus et Danuius sunt flui in Germania. So Rhenus, the Rhine, and the Danube or Danuius are rivers. So there's the plural of river, fluius, in Germany or Germania, the province of Germania or the area of Germania. It was never a province of Imperium Romanum, as much as perhaps they would have liked it to have been. So we see Tiberis fluius in Italia est. So another new pronoun, Tiberis, the Tiberis River. Is that how it is pronounced in English? Is what I'm deducing here. It's saying that it is a river in Italy. Great. So we're learning about some rivers. So we're learning lots of geography. Let's continue on.
Nilus fluius magnus est. Tiberis non est fluius magnus. Tiberis fluius parvus est. Rhenus non est fluius parvus, sed fluius magnus. Nilus et Rhenus non flui parvi, sed flui magni sunt. Danuius quoque fluius magnus est.
Okay. Nilus fluius magnus est. Tiberis non est fluius magnus, Tiberis fluius parvus est. So we're seeing two new words introduced here, magnus and parvus, and we see the grammar note on the left-hand side. So, and we're also seeing some variations of the word here, which are interesting, which we don't necessarily see this as such in English, but is definitely a rule in Latin, and we'll get to that. But it's implying here, and as we read through the sentences, that parvus and magnus are opposite each other. So we can say that Nilus fluius magnus est. And we can say Tiberis non est fluius magnus, Tiberis fluius parvus est. So perhaps this relies on your knowledge on particular rivers, but we know that the Nile is a huge, absolute massive river. And we can deduce that Magnus is meaning great or big in this case. And perhaps even if you've never spoken any Latin or seen much Latin before, you'd probably deduce that anyway. Most people are familiar with Pompey Magnus, where Magnus was an agnomen granted to Pompey during the late Republic, and I guess that the civil war with Julius Caesar, which eventually resulted in Pompey Magnus's death in Aegyptus. So Magnus means great. So we know that the next line there, it says the Tiberis River, or Tiberis, is not a great river, est fluius magnus, non est fluius magnus, not a great river, and it's offering what it in fact is. So fluius parvus est. So it is in fact a small river. So it's not a great river, it's a small river. The Tiberis or Tiberius, Tiber River, I think is the English translation there. Right, okay, so we're learning great and not so great or small. So let's continue on. Renus non est fluis parvus, sed fluis magnus. So the Renus, or the Rhine, is not a small river, but a great river. Yep, okay. Nilus et Renus non flui parvi, sed flui magni sunt. That's interesting. So again, these words look similar to fluvius and parvus that we saw before, but they are different. And we can, I guess, deduce what the sentence is saying. So we're saying the Nile and the Rhine are not what appears to be small rivers, and we're talking about a plural here, and that's the big clue, but are great rivers. And we know that's are by the sunt. Sed means but, as we've learned before. So what we're seeing here is we know that the plural of river, fluvius, is flui. And then we see a relationship with magnus and parvus that appears to change because of the plural of what it is describing. So parvus and magnus are adjectives, and the adjective appears to change in Latin based on the object that it is describing. And we can see some rules over here in the left-hand column. So fluvius meaning river, and we see the form of the adjectives magnus and parvus, and we see that US ending, and a US ending agrees with the object or the noun itself. But then we see the plural of river, flui, and we see that the ending of those adjectives changes to match that noun. So we see magni and parvi. So the adjective agrees with the noun, and you'll hear that regularly, I think, when learning Latin, is that the adjective needs to agree with the noun. And I think that's part of the reason why Latin sounds so poetic. There's lots of words that sound very similar and perhaps even rhyme, almost sung in a way, and it is part of that relationship between nouns and adjectives. So finishing off, we see Danuius quoque fluvius magnus est. So we go back to describing one river, and it is great, and so the US ending is used again in the adjective magnus, meaning great river. So the Danube, or Danuius, is also a great river. Okay. Whew, we're learning lots of words here. We're about to learn some more. Here we go.
Corsica insula est. Corsica et Sardinia et Sicilia insulae sunt. Britannia quoque insula est. Italia insula non est. Sicilia insula magna est. Melita est insula parva. Britannia non insula parva, sed insula magna est. Sicilia et Sardinia non insulae parvae, sed insulae magnae sunt.
Okay, let's test ourselves. Let's see how we're going. So let's first of all try a pronunciation. So we say Corsica insula est, Corsica et Sardinia et Sicilia, where C's are pronounced as K's, Sicilia insulae sunt. Britannia quoque insula est. Italia insula non est. Sicilia insula magna est. Melita est insula parva. Britannia non insula parva, sed insula magna est. Sicilia et Sardinia non insulae parvae, get that pronunciation right, parvae, sed insulae magnae sunt. Right, so lots of adjectives changing there because of nouns, but let's step through it. But we're getting a rhythm now. We're starting to pick up words and meanings pretty quick here. It's getting pretty good. So we're talking about locations and places here, and we know from the picture at the beginning, insula means island, or we've deduced it to mean island based on the image. So Corsica insula est. Corsica is an island. Great. Corsica et Sardinia et Sicilia insulae sunt. Insulae sunt. Corsica and Sardinia and Sicily. That's the translation. Corsica and Sardinia and Sicily are islands. And we can deduce that. But we can see that relationship over here in the grammar column for those that are looking. So we see two endings, A and AE, for insula, or we see that the AE ending can be applied in the plural for something ending in A. So Corsica insula est, when we're talking about one object, in this case just Corsica. And we're talking about multiple objects. In this second sentence here, Corsica et Sardinia insulae sunt, where AE together is a diphthong, which sounds like I think is the word terminology there. Insulae sunt, so are islands. So the plural of insula is insulae. There we go. Let's continue on. So Britannia quoque insula est. So Britannia is also an island. Cool, we're happy with that. Italia insula non est. We know that Italy is not an island. Good, so reinforcing what we know, reforming those relationships that we've learned above, okay? Sicilia insula magna est. So that word looks familiar there, adjectives. It looks very similar to magnus. But we've changed the ending to an A. So that's fabulous. So why wasn't it, like we saw it before, magni? Why is it not magni? Why is it not magnus? But in this case, it's magna. But if we remember the rule that the adjective has to agree with the noun, in this case here, it's adopted the ending letter A, the same as insula, the singular word for island. And perhaps there's a bit of a cheat. I think I can let on that there are nouns are either male, female, or neuter, depending on how you'd like to pronounce that. And the endings will often reflect the gender. So in this case here, the A ending is feminine, and the US ending is masculine. So fluvius, a river, is masculine, and insula is feminine. So and it appears adjectives will take on that masculine, feminine, or neuter based on the noun. So we're learning some rules here. But we can see that's reinforced over in the left-hand column over here. And it says insula, right? So the singular for island, magna and parva. So those adjectives, that's what they look like. So great and small. And insulae, plural, it changes again. Magnae and parvae. Wow, lots of variations on the same word. So we have magna, magnae, magnus, magni, whether it's singular, whether it's plural, whether it's masculine, whether it's feminine, whether it's neuter. Golly gosh, that's a lot to remember. But it's perhaps not a case of remembering, rather reading what's in front of you, and just making sure your adjectives agree. I'm sure there are exceptions. I'm pretty sure my Latin teacher has noted that there are exceptions, but the majority of cases, these are the general rules that you follow. So read and speak what you see, and that's what we're doing here. So, Britannia quoque insula est, Italia insula non est, Sicilia insula magna est. So we're saying that Sicily is a great island. And then we see a new location, Melita, which I think is Malta. I think if we translate that into English, I could be wrong. If you have the correct translation, please let us know. Melita est insula parva. We know parva is small. So Melita is a small island. And I think Malta is a small island as well, if I'm not mistaken. Britannia non insula parva, sed insula magna est. Britain is not a small island, but a great island. Agreed. Sicily and Sardinia are not small islands. So we're seeing the plural feminine of island here. So parvae, insulae. So the adjective small is agreeing with the small, is agreeing with the feminine island. But insulae magnae sunt. So, but are great rivers. Sorry, not rivers, but are great islands. Agreed. Okay, very good. Let's continue on. We're doing well. What are we? We're about 40% of the way through the lesson. That's pretty good. What is a 10-minute, 25-minute video? And how long have we been going for? We've been. I can't see my counter. Oh, we've been going for 55 minutes. Taking an hour to read through the chapter. But we're really stepping this out. I think most people are picking this up quite quickly. Anyway, but I really like to step it out. This will help me later as well.
Prundisio oppidunst. Prundisio et tusculum oppida sunt. Sparta quoc oppidunst. Prundisiunst oppidum magnum. Tuscul oppidum parvunst. Delphi quoc oppidum parvunst. Tuscul et Delphi non oppida magna, sed oppida parva sunt.
Yeah, interesting to see some of his pronunciation or lack thereof. So instead of saying Brundisium, it's Brundisium. It just sort of fades off. Brundisium oppidum est. In fact, you don't even hear the IUM really as he pronounces it. Brundisium oppidum est. Brundisium oppidum est. It just sort of runs together. Thus how fluent he is. But we see this new word, two new words. We can see one of the pronoun Brundisium. That sounds like a location. Brundisium oppidum est, so oppidum. Interesting. What is oppidum? Now, again, we had a clue because of the image at the very beginning of the chapter, and we deduced oppidum to mean a town or a city, some sort of built-up infrastructure. So we're deducing from the very first sentence, Brundisium is a city. Okay, cool. Brundisium et Tusculum oppida sunt. Brundisium et Tusculum oppida sunt. So we can say that Brundisium and Tusculum are, and we see a new plural here, looks very similar to oppidum, oppida, are cities. And we can see that relationship over here. So we've got, I guess, a new ending. We've been introduced to a new ending, um, and I guess the plural ending a. So in the singular, Brundisium oppidum est. And we know that this ending um is in fact neuter. So it's not masculine, it's not feminine. It is neuter, it's gender neutral. And the plural of oppidum, the neuter, is oppida. Brundisium et Tusculum oppida sunt. Cities, they are cities. Okay. And we can continue and learning about those words in the following sentences. So we've got Sparta quoque oppidum est, Brundisium est oppidum magnum. So Sparta is also a city. Brundisium is a great city. And again, we see a new variation of magnus in magnum. The adjective agrees with the noun, adopts the neuter ending now, magnum oppidum, a great city. So Brundisium is a big city that we're understanding. Tusculum oppidum parum est. We've deduced that Tusculum is a small city, and again the adjective adopts the neuter form of the city ending here, um. And we introduced to Delphi. No, ph in Latin is not f like it is in English, but it's almost you say each letter. So Delphi, quoque oppidum parum est. Delphi is also a small city. Okay. Tusculum et Delphi non oppida magna, sed oppida parva sunt. So it's reinforcing what we've just been told. So Tusculum and Delphi are not great cities, but are small cities. Okay, cool.
Ubi est Sparta? Sparta est in Caraicia. Sparta est oppidum Caraicum. Sparta et Delphi oppida Caraica sunt. Tusculum non oppidum Caraicum, sed oppidum Romanus. Tusculum et Brundisium sunt oppida Romana. Sardini insula Romana est.
Okay, so let's ask the question. Ubi est Sparta? Sparta est in Graecia. Where is Sparta? Sparta is in Greece. Now we're seeing a rule over here. It says Graecus, and we see it also can have an A ending and a um ending. So that implies that there's a masculine Greece, a feminine Greece, and a neuter Greece. So in the sense that it could be an adjective. So if something is Greek, so it can have a masculine, a feminine form, and a neuter form. Okay. But otherwise, Graecia, as in the location, is spelt this way. Graecia. And then we say, Sparta est oppidum Graecum. So here we go. So here we're using Greece as an adjective. So Sparta is a Greek city. And Graecum, it adopts the neuter ending, because oppidum is neuter with the um ending. So Sparta is a Greek city. Yes, it is. Sparta and Delphi, or Delphi in English, oppida Graeca sunt. So we've changed it again now to plural form. So Sparta and Delphi are Greek cities. And Graeca takes on the A ending to meet the feminine plural, I guess, opida, here. Okay. Tusculum non oppidum Graecum, sed oppidum Romanum est. So Tusculum is not a Greek city, but a Roman city. Romanum is a neuter in this form here, used as an adjective. So Roman. Romanum est is a Roman city. So Tusculum et Brundisium sunt oppida Romana. Sardinia insula Romana est. So Tusculum and Brundisium are Roman cities. Adjective following the noun here, and the new variation of Roman, Romana, adopts the A ending to meet the plural oppida and the A ending here, and we see that rule emphasized over in the left-hand column. So we can have a masculine Romanus, a feminine Romana, and we can have a neuter Romanum, depending on what noun we are describing. All are essentially equivalent to Roma, the city. Alright, so we've got a whole bunch of locations coming up next. Let's see how he pronounces all of these.
Creta, Rhodus, Naxos, Samos, Chios, Lesbos, Lemnos, Euboea sunt insulae Graecae. In Graecia multa insulae sunt. In Italia et in Graecia sunt multoppida.
Okay, before it skips the page on us, so let's try and give all those locations a go. So we've got Creta, Rhodus, Naxos, Samos, Chios, Lesbos, Lemnos, Euboea. That's a great one. Euboea sunt insulae Graecae. So it's saying that Crete, I think that's translation, Crete, Rhodus, Naxos, Samos, Chios, Lesbos, and Lemnos, and Euboea, I don't know what that would be in English, are Greek islands. So insulae, we know from above, is the plural of insula, which is multiple islands, so islands, the plural of island, and Graeciae, the adjective Greek adjective here is agreeing with the noun insulae, so it's adopted that plural form, which is interesting. So but I guess also makes sense. So if we were describing multiple Greek islands in English, as I just did then, the word Greek doesn't become Greeks, multiple Greeks islands, but that's what Latin does. At least that's the way I understand it anyway. And then it goes to say, in Graecia multae insulae sunt. In Italia et in Graecia sunt multa oppida. So we've got a new word, multi, but then we see a variation of it down here, which looks slightly different, it's a multa. So we're saying in Greece, back to the normal area, so in Greece, something are multiple islands. In fact, I just gave the clue away. In Greece, there are many or multiple islands. Many. This will be many. So in Italy and in Greece, there are multiple cities. Oppida meaning the plural form of oppidum. So oppida means cities, and multa is agreeing with the plural form here of cities. So we have multiple cities. Great. Let's hear him continue on.
In Gallia et in Germania multi sunt flui. Sunt ne multi flui et multoppid in Arabia? In Arabia non multi, sed pauci flui sunt, et pauc oppida.
So whatever that rest of that sentence was, Germania multi sunt flui, sunt ne multi flui et multa oppida in Arabia. In Arabia non multi, sed pauci flui sunt et pauca oppida. So something and Germany or Germania, there are multiple rivers. So we know that flui is the plural of fluvius. So there are multiple rivers, okay. And we see a new word here, sunt ne, and the clue is over in the column here. So sunt we know is are, and the ne creates the question form of that. So are there multiple or many rivers and multiple cities in Arabia, or Arabia? And then we get the answer. In Arabia non multi, sed pauci flui sunt et pauca opida. So we're seeing some variations of the adjectives here. So in Arabia, there are not many. That's the first part of the sentence. In Arabia, there is not many, but there is small rivers where the adjective is agreeing with the noun, and we're saying there are small rivers and small cities. Now I'm saying small, but that's different. I'm thinking of so I've got Magnus, and what's the opposite of Magnus? But Pauki is different. It's not small. That means few. So who picked that up? Who was quick enough to pick that up? So, are there multiple rivers and multiple cities in Arabia? There are not many, but few rivers, and this makes more sense, right? So there are few rivers there and few cities, and we see that relationship over here. So we see Pauki, which is I guess the base word. It can have an AE ending and an A ending, and that's the opposite of multi, which we know to be many. So we have few and many, which also can have an AE and an A ending. So at least it's consistent. So we have multi and pauci, flui. So I guess that's talking about with the plural form. So multi and pauci is plural, if we're talking about a plural object. We have multi and pauci, insulae. So we know insulae is the plural of island. So we can have a matching adjective for island, and we have multa and pauca opida. So again, another matching ending for words ending in a, so meaning either multiple or few. Okay, we've clarified that. So pauci is not small, as I originally said, but it means few, the opposite of multi. Okay, great.
Non cret oppidumst. Cret oppidum non est. Quid est Creta? Creta insula est. Non Sparta insula est. Sparta non est insula. Quid est Sparta? Sparta oppidumst. Rhenus quid est? Rhenus est magnus fluius. Nuo Oceanus Atlanticus parvus est.
I'll stop there before it runs off my page. So we see a new word introduced here, num. So num Creta oppidum est. It's posed as a question. Let's go over the cheat sheet in the column. So num Creta est is equal to est ne. We know est is, and the ne creates the question variant of that. So num appears to be a different variation of est ne. So is Crete a city? Or is Crete a city? Is the way we read that. So num means is, essentially, is as a question, or est ne. So we got, essentially what I understand is we replace that with est ne. Est ne Creta oppidum est. We can answer that question in the next line. Creta oppidum non est. It's Creta is not a city, and we know that Crete in geography terms is not a city, but it's insula. It is an island. So we have another question here, which appears to be a follow-up based on what we've just asked. So quid est Creta? What is quid? And we can see that it then says Creta insula est. So we're answering the question before. So I guess it's saying what? Quid means what? What is Creta then? So what is Creta? Quid est Creta? Creta insula est. Creta is an island. So we ask a new question. Num Sparta insula est. Is Sparta an island? And we go, no, Sparta is not an island. Quid est Sparta? What is Sparta then? And we can say Sparta oppidum est. Sparta is a city. Rhenus quid est. So a different variation of a similar question. So quid doesn't have to be at the beginning. So is the Rhine, what is the Rhine, is what that question's saying. Rhenus quid est, what is the Rhine? Rhenus et magnus fluvius. There's our classic first word that we learn about great. So we're saying that the Rhine, or Rhenus, is a great river. Cool. Nom Oceanus Atlanticus parvus est. So is, and that looks like ocean to me, is the Atlantic Ocean small? parvus, and we see the ending US agreeing with the endings over here. So is the Atlantic Ocean small? No, it's not. So it's not small, but it is a great ocean. So we learnt Atlantic Ocean, Oceanus Atlanticus. Wow, fantastic. That's very good. Okay, let's continue on.
Non parvus, sed magnus est oceanus.
Oceanus. There we go.
Ubi est imperium Romanum? Imperium Romanum est in Europa, in Asia, in Africa. Hispania et Syriet Aegyptus provinciae Romanae sunt.
Ubi est imperium Romanum? So a question, where is, ubi means where is the imperium Romanum? Where is the Roman Empire, is the way I understand that. And it says, imperium Romanum est in Europa, so Rome, the Roman Empire is in Europe, in Asia, in Asia, in Africa, Hispania et Syria et Aegyptus provinciae Romanae sunt. So again we see Roman as an adjective here where the ending AE agrees with the noun provinciae, which means, or we can deduce, means province. So we see Hispania, Spain and Syria and Egypt are Roman provinces. So that must be plural. We've seen AE used in the plural context before. So we can make that deduction. A Roman province. So for those who knew their Roman geography, so that's how we can work that out.
Germania non est provincia Romana. Germania in imperio Romano non est. Sed Gallia et Britannia sunt provinciae Romanae.
So having a look at the grammar note over here in the column, so we see an ending UM and an ending O. So two variations, and I guess they can be applied to here to Imperium Romanum, a neuter term. Right, so like we saw with Italy, so Italia in Italia, if we're talking about it being in, or something referring to in that location, it changes the ending for whatever reason. That's just the rule, okay, sure. So like Italy, which became Italia to Italia with the Macron over the last letter, we're seeing a variation here. So in this neuter form, Imperium Romanum, it becomes in Imperio Romano. Okay, so Germania non est provincia Romana. Germania is not a Roman province. And it continues to say, Romania in Imperio Romano non est. Germania is not in the Roman Empire. We see, I guess, a new sentence starting here with but. Sed Gallia et Britannia sunt provincia Romanae. So Gallia and Britain are Roman provinces. In Imperio Romano multae sunt provinciae, magnum est Imperium Romanum. So in the Roman Empire, there are many provinces, provinciae, and where the ending here, AE, is agreeing with the noun. Magnum est Imperium Romanum. So great is the Roman Empire, or the Roman Empire is great, meaning large, big. And that concludes, I guess, the first part of the text when we talk about literae et numeri, the last little section which starts to introduce some number concepts to us. So let's go through that.
In Imperio Romano multae sunt provinciae. Magnus Imperium Romanum.
Good, okay. Here we go.
Literae et numeri. Unus et duo numeri sunt.
Okay, so these are Roman numerals for those playing along at home. So unus et duo numeri sunt. 1 and 2 are numbers. That's what I deduce from that. How about you?
Tres quoque numerus est. Unus duo tres numeri Romani sunt.
And the grammar notes over here give us that clue as well. So the symbol I, 1, unus means 1, and we see the alpha, what do they call that? Essentially the numbers as we know them in English anyway, and in many languages in fact. 2, duo, 3, tres. Then we see this other symbol which we'll get introduced to very shortly, which we know also can be M, mille, meaning 1,000. And so that second line here, 3 is also a number. And we see numeres this time as opposed to numeri. So numeri is the plural of numerus. So numerus is singular, numeri is numbers. And we say 1, 2, and 3, unos, duo, tres, are Roman numbers. So Romani, the adjective, agrees with the noun here. Okay, let's continue on.
Unus et duo sunt parvi numeri. Mille magnus numerus est.
More descriptions here. So unus et duo sunt parvi numeri. So parvi no means small. Numeri. So numeri, it's the plural because we're talking about more than one number. Parvi, the adjective, means small. The ending I agrees with the adjective. So unus et duo sunt parvi numeri. 1 and 2 are small numbers. And then we say mille magnus numerus est. Yes, it's a great number.
A et B litterae sunt. G quoque littera est. A, B, G sunt 3 litterae. A est littera prima, B littera secunda.
All right. So we'll start by looking at the grammar note here. Gives us a clue. So we say ar, which is A, ar, B, K, and it's emphasizing, I guess, how they're pronounced. So the macron over the vowel means that elongated vowel. So r, b, k. When a c is pronounced as a k sound in classical Latin, and we see that tres, that the 3 is reminding us of the 3 here again. So we say a et b litterae sunt. We can deduce that litterae means letters. We're talking about numbers and letters. This is essentially what this little chapter section is about. A and B are letters. Que quoque littera est. So C is also a letter. So we see the singular and plural form of letter. Littera is the singular. Litterae is the plural. So we see that quite a lot. An A ending becomes plural by adding the E, making an I sound. Litterae. That's good. So we've got R, B, K, sunt, tres, litterae. So A, B, and C are 3 letters. Tres. 3 letters. Okay, good. R is littera prima, B littera secunda. Right, so now we're showing a relationship in terms of letters and numbers. So it's saying we can deduce that because prima and secunda is not 1 and 2, but it's talking about relationship in, I guess, the alphabet. So it's saying that A is the first letter, B is the second letter. So we've got prima and secunda, first and second. Cool.
Che littera tertia. Gamma littera graeca est. Che est littera latina. Che et D litterae latinae sunt. Gamma et delta sunt litterae graecae.
Cool. So we continue to make some comparisons. So che littera tongue tied here. Tertia. So prima, secunda, tertia. First, second, third. So C is the third letter. That's the first part of that sentence. And then we're seeing some Greek letters here. So gamma littera graeca est, where Greek is the adjective, A ending agreeing with the noun, which is letter. So gamma littera graeca est. And I know that's gamma, 1 because the guy pronounced it, but 2 we have our little code over here on the left hand side. So that letter means gamma. And we see here in the Latinus word, so we get told here that che est littera latina. So C is a Latin letter, as opposed to gamma, which is a Greek letter. And Latinus can have an A ending and a UM ending. So Latinus, the masculine form, A, Latina, the feminine form, and Latinum, the neuter form, is equal to Romano. So it's saying that Latin, Roman, it's interchangeable here. So we could say che est littera or Romana. C is a Roman letter as opposed to a Latin letter. So we say che et de litterae Latinae sunt. C and D are Latin letters. So we see the plural form of Latin, so Latinae. So che et de litterae Latinae sunt. C and D are Latin letters, and so gamma et delta sunt litterae Graeciae. So gamma and delta are Greek letters. Cool.
Fluius et oppidum vocabula Latina sunt. Ubi quoque vocabulum Latinus? In vocabulo ubi sunt 3 litterae. In capitolo primo 1000 vocabula sunt.
Okay, we introduced some new words here. So, first of all, the grammar notes here, we're told that vocabulum, when we say talking about in vocabulum, that sounds very much like vocabulary. I wonder if that word is derived. The ending changes. So again, we saw this rule when talking about in something, we could see an ending change. So UMs become O's, and can't remember which word, but we saw that recently with another word. So vocabulum in vocabulo. So if we see vocabulo, it means vocabulum, but we're just talking about the in context. So this other line here, so capitulum primum, so cap 1. So we saw that at the very beginning of the book. That means first chapter is how I read that. Capitulum primum. So cap means chapter, or capitulum, the full word in Latin. Interesting. We know that prima is first, so primum is the adjective here, agreeing with the noun capitulum, and because capitulum is in the neuter, we will adopt the um ending for primum, is the way I'm interpreting that. So in capitulo, and right, so we then, because we're saying in the chapter, in the first chapter, right, so capitulo primo, and again primo, the adjective has to change to match the noun, which is now capitulo, because it is in, like vocabulum and vocabulo. So in the first chapter, mille, which we know is 1,000, is equal, so mille is equal to 1,000, and sex, at least I think its pronunciation is equal to 6. Wow, look at us, just being able to derive purely based on what we've read. So we're translating a heap of words. Our vocabulary is quite large already. We're nearly at 30, 40, 50 words already. But anyway, let's read through what we've got here. So, fluvius et oppidum vocabula Latina sunt. Rivers and cities are Latin words. That is what I'm deriving here. So they're in italics. So it's telling us what these are. So fluvius and oppidum are the sunt, Latin, Latina. That could also be Romana, Roman. So Latin vocabula word. So vocabula is feminine, so there's an A ending. Fantastic. So then we see the word ubi. So we know that to be where. So where, ubi quoque vocabulum Latinum est. Where is also, there's the is there, is also a Latin word. So now that's interesting. So we see vocabula up here and vocabulum, but they're different. So why are they different? So Latina and Latinum, they are agreeing with well there we go. So Latina and Latinum, right, so they're the adjective in this case, and they're just agreeing with the noun, so that's why they're changed. But we know the difference between vocabula and vocabulum is singular and plural. There we go. So fluvius and oppidum, two objects in the sentence. Vocabula are Latin words, so plural, though vocabulary is words, which is the plural of vocabulum, means word. So where is also a Latin word. Okay, cool. In vocabulo, so that ending change because we're talking about in something. So in vocabulo, ubi sunt 3 litterae. So let's deduce what it's saying in this sentence. So in a word, in the word where, there we go. So in the word where, there are 3 letters. in vocabulo ubi, so that's the key object of the sentence here. In vocabulo ubi, in the word where, a comma would have helped us really understand that. Sunt are three literae, plural of litera, letters. So there are 3 letters in ubi. Yep, I agree. In capitulo primo mille vocabula sunt. And we know from over here on the left-hand side in the grammar section, so in capitulo, in primo, first, in the first chapter, mille vocabula sunt. So in the first chapter, and vocabulary we know is plural, in the first chapter there are 1,000 words. Is that right? Is there actually 1,000 words in the first chapter? I'd be wanting to go count. Very good.
In vocabulo insula 6 litterae et 3 syllabae sunt. Syllaba prima in, secunda su, tertia la. In vocabulo non sunt 3 litterae et una syllaba.
Okay, so he now goes and say in vocabulo insula 6 litterae et 3 syllabae sunt. What's he saying there? So in the word vocabulo, meaning word, and its endings change because of in. So in the word insula, and we know insula is the singular form for island. 6 litterae et 3 syllabae sunt. There are 6 letters. Litterae meaning letters, sex meaning 6, as we saw over here on the left-hand side. There are 6 letters, et and 3 syllabae sunt. And we're going to deduce that means syllables, partly because it looks very similar to the English word syllables, but also he spells it out in the next sentence here, or the rest of this sentence. Syllaba, so that's the singular form of syllable. We've got syllables, syllabi, syllaba, singular. Prima, we know it's first, so the first syllable is in, that's correct. Secunda, the second syllable is su, in su. And tertia, the third, is la. Yes, I agree.
Quid est?
Before we continue, so in vocabulo, so in the word non, which we know is not, or no, or not, so the negative. In vocabulo, so in the word non, there are 3 letters and una syllaba, 1 syllable. So we had unus, meaning 1, and I believe it's as being used as a description or an adjective here of the amount of syllables, so therefore the ending is agreeing with the feminine singular word for syllable, which is syllaba. So unus is masculine, and therefore we have, I guess, the feminine matching ending, una, for 1, to match syllaba. So in vocabulo non sunt 3 litterae et una syllaba. Syllaba. Syllaba? Syllaba. Does he have to say that again? Make sure we get that pronunciation right. So, very good. My my teacher is watching. Perfect. So let me just, you'll be able to pick up for me now. I'm just trying to make sure I get the pronunciation of the singular word for syllable. Is it syllaba or syllaba? Is it the first or second pronunciation for... Yeah, so it's in vocabulo non sunt 3 litterae et una syllaba or syllaba. Syllaba, it might be a better pronunciation. So una, the adjective, takes on the a ending to agree with the singular feminine form of syllable, which is syllaba. So it's more like salaba. Salaba. Salaba, salaba. Okay, that's good. I'm glad you're here. So we're stepping through the YouTube video that my good teacher has recommended, and listening to the pronunciation. So going through this first chapter of the book again, and seeing if we can translate it on the fly as well into English. And that's proving to be very easy, just because of the way that the book is written. So you're saying it, no, it's a U sound. Listen to, so all right, so let's just go back. Let's just rewind just slightly. Let's listen to how he says it. Here we go.
ed una sillaba.
Syllaba. There we go. You're right. It was a bit of a U sound. Syllaba. So in vocabulo non sunt tres litterae et una syllaba. Okay, cool. All right, let's carry on.
Quid est tres? Tres numerus Romanus est. Gamma quid est? Gamma littera Graeca est. Nunc littera Graeca est. Non littera Graeca, sed littera Latina est que.
So quid est tres? So what? We know quid is what. So what is 3 essentially? And we say tres numerus Romanus est. 3 is a Roman number. So Romanus, the adjective, has the US masculine ending to agree with the singular numerus, which has the masculine ending here. So singular numerus, the Romanus, which can have multiple endings as well as the adjective. So 3 is a Roman number. Then he says gamma quid est, and we know that gamma is a Greek letter from before. So what is gamma? And he says gamma littera Graeca est. So gamma is a Greek letter. Littera meaning the singular word for letter. Graeca, which means Greek, and the ending again as the adjective agrees with the noun. Graeca littera est. Very good, and Sempronius Agricola has joined us as well. Salve. Joining in on my lessons. I'm going through, you'll be all over this, so going through chapter 1 again, really making sure I've got the pronunciation right, and really making sure I can pick up the translations really easily as well. And it is, it's proven to be awesome. It's amazing just how this book is written, how it just teaches you the words. It showed us in the image at the very beginning, oppidum, fluvius, and insula, so river, city, not in that order, and island, and then slowly started to introduce the more and more words to us. So what are we up to? 30, 40, 50 words already in our vocabulary, and many variations of those words as well, if they're being used, I guess, as an adjective. It's fantastic. So far, I think I much prefer this over the wheel lock approach. Much more fun. You can feel yourself learning. It's great. Okay, so let's continue on. He says num que littera Graeca est, and we know num is, I guess, another variation for esne, posed as a question. So is C a Greek letter? And we see Graeca, the ending, which we know to mean Greek, matches littera, the singular version of the word letter. Certainly enjoying the book. Is C K a Greek letter? And we know it's not. And it says non littera Graeca, sed littera Latina est que. So no, it is not a Greek letter, but it is a Latin letter. Is a Latin letter. C is a Latin letter. So we do see the C again, que, in this sentence. But C is a Latin letter. Okay, I think he continues on from here.
Estne B littera prima? B non littera prima, sed secunda est. Quid est non? Non est vocabulum Latinum. Non, sed, magnus, numerus, vocabula Latina sunt. Vocabulum, quoque vocabulum Latinus.
Okay, so the last paragraph here, or the last couple of lines, so esne be littera prima, and we know that prima means first. That's the first thing that jumps out to me. And esne is. So we're asking a question. So is be a is it the first letter? Is essentially what that question is like. Is that the first letter? And then it says be non littera prima, sed secunda est. B is not the first letter, but is the second letter. Now, I'm pretty sure, and I guess and the Magistra could correct us here. So instead of saying esne be littera prima, could we also say num be littera prima? Is that a viable substitution? So instead of esne be littera prima, can we say num be litera prima. At least that was what the book perhaps was implying to me. I wonder if that would be correct. Yes, excellent. Oh, good. Okay. So be non litera prima sed secunda est. Great. So quid est non? So what is the word no or non? Quid meaning what? And we say non est vocabulum Latinum. So non or no is a Latin word, where vocabulum is the singular version of the word because what's the plural? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll know it when I see it. It's about remembering. But I recognize that vocabulum, a neuter version, neuter, it's not masculine, it's not feminine, and we see with Latinum as the adjective adopts the neuter ending, the same as the ending here in describing the noun. So vocabulum Latinum. So non is a Latin word. Okay. So non sed magnus numerus vocabula Latina sunt. So we've got the words no, but, great, numerous, which is masculine singular for number, I think is correct there. So no, but, great, and number are all Latin are Latin words. So vocabula. Oh, there you go. There's the plural. There, yeah, right. You just pointed out, and it's just in the sense of there you go. So vocabula is the plural of vocabulum. And we see the adjective Latin has been changed again to meet that plural noun. So we've got a plural adjective, I guess. Latina, vocabula, or vocabula Latina, sunt, so are. So they're all Latin words. And then we finish by saying vocabulum quoque vocabulum Latinum est. So word, vocabulum, the word, is also a Latin word. That's quite funny. Oppidum, plural oppida. Yes, vocabulum, plural vocabula. Yep, that's it. Good. That's good. I do like that last sentence. That's fantastic. And that concludes the first chapter of this book. So very happy with my progress in the first chapter. Pretty happy with my pronunciation. There's perhaps only one or two things that I want to practice, like syllabi, syllaba, so syllabus, or not syllabus, that's syllable, is I'm going to practice that pronunciation. Good to see that various endings, even for numbers, so unus, one, or una, so you can see a feminine form or there as well. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, so we're not finished yet. We're going to start on chapter 2. So I had a brief read of chapter 2 earlier today because I'm behind in my lessons. I've got to catch up. And I thought we'll continue on to do chapter 2 here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my great Latin pronunciation vocal cords a bit of a rest. I'm going to have a cup of tea, and I'm going to come back in about 5 minutes. So it'd be great if both the Magistra and Agricola, if you're still around in about 5 minutes, it'd be great to have you guys on watching and making sure I'm doing it correctly as well. And anybody else watching, please join in, share your opinions and your thoughts in the chat. This is what this channel is all about, sharing all things Roman here on the Ost Nova Roma Twitch channel. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Don't go away. that's enough of a break. I'm excited. Don't want to break my rhythm. So let's move on to chapter 2. So for those playing along at home, we are following some YouTube videos. So this is Lingua Latina per Illustrata, capitolo duo. Hopefully I've got that correctly. Familia Romana. And if you go to the YouTube channel ScorpioMartianus, subscribe to that channel there. The gentleman is fantastic at his Latin pronunciation. He's come quite recommended. And so we're following along in his videos here. We're listening to his pronunciation. We're giving it a go ourselves. And then based on what we're learning through deduction, through reading this completely Latin written book, we're also understanding and translating on the go as well, making sure that we understand everything. So as I understand that I've been briefed in, and as I've just touched on chapter 2 a little bit earlier today, we finally start to get into I guess there's the beginning of what will be a story. So we're being introduced to some people coming up here in this next chapter. So we're going to learn about the family. So very excited to continue on. So let's see how we go. So welcome back. Hopefully you're jumping back online with me now. Bring your favorite beverage wherever you are in the world right now. So if you're on the east coast of Australia, or central or western time zones of Australia, you'll be coming into evening at various parts, or you'll be very late evening in New Zealand. For all those in Provincia, Australia. If you're in the anywhere in the Americas and the United States, you'll be any point fairly early in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, and it'll be I think we're about lunchtime now, Rome time, or just after lunch, Rome time. So yes, wherever you are, please bring your favourite beverage, be that tea, coffee, some sort of weird Vegemite mixture. There's some weird beverages out there. Maybe a beer. Could be beer o'clock somewhere. My certain poison is a tea. Whether it be caffeinated or decaf, it doesn't bother me. I like my tea. Okay, so let's continue on. I have the video here. Got our audio levels. Let me know if you've got some audio problems. I do have the fan on behind me because it is a very warm evening here. Quite hot. What's the Latin word for hot or warm? For those watching, I don't know that one yet. But it's very warm or hot here. So yes, I need a little bit of airflow. So I don't sweat through my toga here. Okay, let's get into chapter 2. Here we go. I'm gonna press play here. Here we go. That's better. Okay.
Capitulum secundum. Familia.
Before we move past this picture, so this picture is pretty important. So it's already setting a scene for us. So we learn a lot off the picture in the first paragraph. So we'll take a snapshot here. In fact, just to make it easier, I'm going to even take a photo with my phone. So I've got this reference for later. So we have Familia Romana, which I understand to be the Roman family, Familia. And we can see two groups of people here. So it appears to be, I guess, the Roman citizens and the slaves on the right. So I've got Julius, Marcus, Quintus, Julia, Aemilia, and then we have Sira, Delia, Davus, and Medus. If I've got the pronunciation correctly, but I'll have the YouTube video correct me very shortly. But let's hear the first little bit and let's continue on.
Via Romana. Julius vir Romanus est. Aemilia femina Romana est.
Okay, so we're really going to break this down to make sure I understand. So we go, Julius vir Romanus est. So I know from the other app I've been studying from, Duolingo, that vir means man, but we'll be able to deduce that a little bit further as we read on. So Julius, and we can see that from the picture, is that gentleman on the left-hand side. So, and we know that Romanus, being the adjective here, is essentially Roman. That's the way I understand that. So Julius is a Roman man. Now, the Magistra has said, remember, you'll need to know all these characters, the children and the slaves. Okay, right. So definitely make sure that we know all of these people very well. Okay. So we know that Julius is a Roman man. Great. We have Aemilia femina Romana est. With Aemilia is the woman here, which we understand to be the mother, and it's saying that she is a Roman woman. So we have vir and femina, so we have man and woman, and we can see that Romanus, the masculine, agrees, I guess, because vir is man, and we have femina and Romana, so the adjective Roman here has, I guess, a feminine ending, because femina means woman or female. Okay, cool.
Marcus est puer Romanus. Quintus quoque puer Romanus est. Julia est puella Romana.
All right, so we're introduced to a few more characters here. So we have Marcus est puer Romanus, and Quintus quoque puer Romanus est. So we have Marcus is a Roman boy, puer, boy, and we have Quintus, another child here, quoque puer Romanus est. So so puer, boy. Quintus is also quoque, a Roman boy, as Julia, which is, I guess, the girl here in the photo, and she is a Roman girl, puella, girl. English, yes, that's right, I was mentioning the lesson, and virtue comes from vir. There we go. It's great, little facts as we go, and we see again in the grammar notes on the right hand side here some reminders about our numbers. So, right. So this is a way of telling us the difference between the singular and the plural. So it says unus, vir is singular man, and duo, viri, is multiple men. And then we can see for the word boy, so puer. So unus, one boy, puer. And if we have multiple boys, so say two or more, duo, we have pueri. So we have the singular vir and puer, and the plural viri and pueri. Okay, perfect. Good. All right, we've already learned a whole bunch of new words already. We're only 2-3 sentences deep into chapter 2. Great. Let's continue on. Let's listen to our expert on the YouTube video here. Here we go.
Marcus et Quintus non viri, sed pueri sunt. Viri sunt Julius et Medus et Davus. Aemiliat Delia et Syra sunt feminae. Est ne femina Julia? Non femina, sed parva puella est Julia.
Okay, let's digest what we've just read there. So let's try a pronunciation. So Marcus et Quintus non viri, sed pueri sunt. So Marcus and Quintus are not, and we can see from the right hand side, are not men. So non are not men. Said but are sunt boys, and we can see the plural there. So it's introducing to us the plural versions of those words. We have our good praetor has joined us as well. Salve. You've joined us for our Latin lesson. We're in chapter 2 of the Lingua Latina books and following along some YouTube videos for good pronunciation. It'd be there we go. I'll allow that through. Perfect. There we go. So some good facts coming through here from the Magistra. So Medus means Mede. Syra means the Syrian woman. And many slaves were named after geographical areas. So Davus is a typical slave name, and Delia is Greek. There we go. Okay. So the modding feature is blocking some of your words. That's frustrating. I'll see if I can permit it. If you come across any words that are blocked by the filter, just DM me through Twitch, and I'll go in and add them into the whitelist, which I think I can do in the back end of the stream. Right, because what we're talking about here is fully legitimate, right? So any words that you're being blocked by in the chat, let me know. Like it just tried to block your last message, but I permitted that through because there's nothing wrong with it, right? So yeah, any words that you come across that are blocked, just DM me in Twitch, and I'll put them in the whitelist, so we can talk about the content in the language and the book here. Okay, so in that first line we worked out that Marcus and Quintus are not men, but they are boys, and then it says, Viri sunt Julius et Medus. I just want to make sure I get that E and the Macron pronounced correctly. So, Medus et Davus. So, Viri sunt Julius et Medus et Davus. So, the men are Julius and Medus et Davus. So, there are two slaves, Medus et Davus, and of course the paterfamiliaris, which we haven't talked about yet, but the man of the household, which is Julius. So they are the men. They are the men in the family. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's for some reason it's blocked that word. Apologies that it's done that. But yeah, just remind me any other words just in the chat. It's not in the chat. Sorry, in my DM personal message, and I'll update it to the whitelist. Great, okay, so we know who the men are. So now let's look at the next sentence. So, Aemilia et Delia et Syra sunt feminae. So we are introduced to a plural version of the word femina, so feminae, and so we've seen that that rule quite commonly now. So words that are singular ending in a become ae. A diphthong, I believe, is correctly in terms of those combination of letters that have a different pronunciation. So Aemilia et Delia et Syra sunt femina. So the women in the household and the family are Aemilia and Delia and Syra. They're all the women. Great. So now we have a question here. Esne femina Julia. So is Julia a woman? And it says non femina sed parva puella est Julia. So no, she's not a woman. So not a woman, but parva puella est Julia. So Julia, but Julia is a small girl, if I have that correctly. Parva is the adjective ending in a, agrees with the noun puella. So we know parva has multiple forms, masculine and feminine and neuter. Excuse me. So the adjective parva here agrees with the noun. A little girl, yes. Small little, so little girl, but is a little girl. So Julia, and we can see that from the image up above. She is in fact a little girl. Okay. In this case, it is a description of size, but I guess you could imply age, really, by that description. Although you can get some old people which are also parva or parus, so maybe not in all cases, but yes, she is small and young. There we go. So let's continue on. Let's listen to the pronunciation of our expert here. Hang on, I pressed the wrong button. There we go.
Julius Aemilia Marcus Quintus Julia Syra Davus Delia Medusque sunt familia Romana.
This is an interesting sentence. So we got it's listing all the family members here. So we got Julius, Aemilia, Marcus, Quintus, Julia, Syra, Davus, Delia, Medusque sunt familia Romana. So it's pretty much saying here that all these people are Roman family. But this word here, so the Medusque, we know that Medus is one of the male slaves in the family, but we see this QUE ending. But we have a clue, and for people in the chat, look inside the side column here. So the book tells us, it gives us clues. So the QUE ending is equal to et, and is what I'm reading here. So Medus, the male slave, and we add the QUE ending, is essentially saying and Medus. So I guess when we're listing things like this is a way of finalizing a list. So Julius, Aemilia, Marcus, Quintus, Julia, Syra, Davus, Delia, Medusque, so and Medus are Roman family. Right, interesting. Okay, so QUE ending to mean et or and. Okay, cool, all right.
Julius pater est, Aemilia est mater. Julius pater Marciet Quinti est.
All right, so let's digest those next two lines there. So Julius parte est. So we got pater and mater, which is in the next sentence. So we can see by the image. So Julius is the father. So Julius is a father, and Amelia est mater. So Amelia is a mother. So pater and mater, and it almost sounds like mother and father, doesn't it, in English? So yeah, pater, mater, English, so paternal, maternal. There you go. There's the direct translation. So paternal and maternal, and we certainly use those to describe as descriptors for particularly parts of the family. There you go. And then we say Julius pater Marci et Quinti est. Now this is interesting. So we know about Marcus and we know about Quintus, but we see this variation of the ending here. Now normally we go, right, we understand the ending changes for an adjective to agree with the noun, so be it pluralized or be it feminine or masculine, but that doesn't necessarily seem to be the rule here, or at least from what I observe. But if we read into the next sentence, and let's listen to him pronounce it.
Julius pater Juliae quoquest. Aemiliast mater Marciet Quintiet Juliae.
So we are knowing, and based on what we've read so far and what we're deducing, we are describing the family, and that's what we're getting here. We know that reading that back to this line here, so Julius pater, so and let's see, Marci et Quinti est. So it's talking about essentially the sons, so Marcus and Quintus, and it's talking about, I guess, the relationship, and I guess that's the key word here, the relationship to Julius as the father. So Julius is the father of Marcus et Quintus, of Marcus and Quintus, is the father of Marcus and Quintus. And so what we can start to deduce here, and as we see the same pattern for other names in the next two sentences, I guess the ending is almost implying a sense of ownership, or there is the relationship there. Now, and as I expected, the good Magistra has come into the chat and said it's called the genitive. It's called the genitive case of the word, and it's the case of possession. So that's interesting. So through the line of thought, we were able to, I guess, deduce, but we now have the word for it. So this is the genitive case of Marcus and Quintus. So we've got Marci and Quinti, implying possession here. So Julius pater Marci et Quinti est. So Julius is the father of these two here. So I guess there is that ownership. So then the next line we have Julius pater Juliae quoque est. So Julius is also the father of Julia. And I guess the genitive form of Julia is Juliae. So Julius pater Julia quoque est. Okay, cool. And then we have Amelia est mater Marci et Quinti et Juliae. So it's confirming something similar, but from Amelia's perspective as the mother. So Amelia is, and we can see est is in a different variation in the sentence again here. You know, Latin is a little bit more free about where we place certain words. So Amelia is the mother of Marcus and Quintus and Julia. So it's listed all three of the citizen children this time, using the genitive case and applying that possession. Great, okay. I think we're up to listening to our expert again.
Marcus filius Julii est. Marcus filius Aemilia est. Quintus quoque filius Julii et Aemilia est. Julia est filia Julii et Aemiliae.
Right, so for this next 2-3 sentences, I guess we've got some clues over here in our, I guess, grammar and explanation part of the page. So it's showing us a little bit of a chart of, I guess, the immediate family here. So Julius as the pater, or the father, Amelia as the mater, or the mother. We have Marcus, Quintus, and Julia. and it's showing what they are. So Marcus and Quintus are both described as filius, which we can imply to be son, and Julia, filia, meaning daughter. That's the way I initially read that, but I suspect now it might mean child, is perhaps what that actually means. So if we go back to read the sentences here, so Marcus filius Julii est, and then we have Marcus filius Ameliae est. So Marcus is a son of, and again we have a genitive case of Julius here, so Julius or Julii. So Marcus is the son of Julius, and then we have Marcus is the son of Amelia. Amelia with a genitive case there of Amelia, so Ameliae. Right, so he's the son of both Julius and Amelia. Okay, and then we have Quintus quoque filius Uli et Ameliae est. So again, the genitive possession case here. So Quintus is also a son of Julius and Amelia. Okay, very good. So, and I guess the big clue that the fact that filius and filia means child and not son and daughter is by the next line, I think, is Ulia et filia Uli et Ameliae. So Ulia, okay, the young small daughter that we know in the family, is a child, I guess, of, and I guess this is where the genitive possession case really comes into its own, Julius and Amelia. Okay, so we're describing children here. So that's the way I understand it. So here we go. Right, so I was right. I was right the first time. So filius means son, filia means daughter. Okay, I should have gone with my instincts. Right. So right, and I think that's what yeah, okay. Right, so yeah, filius means son, and I had a suspicion that it was. I think I picked that up from my Duolingo app. And filia means daughter. Thank you to the Magistra. There you go. There's right. So liberi is children. Liberi is children. Okay, great. All right, so we got through that. So let's listen to from line 15 onwards, and there's some explanation here which we'll go through very shortly too. So,
Quis est Marcus? Marcus puer Romanus est. Quis pater Marci est? Julius pater Marci est.
One of the things I love about Latin is how they trill their R's. So that sound that you hear for their R's. I love that. And for those that haven't practiced that before, because there's no requirement for that really in English at all. It can take some practice to get used to, particularly when you're trying to read the words. Now, I picked up the trill learning Bahasa or Indonesian. They trill their R's. So one of my favourite words in Bahasa or Indonesian is the word for library, which is perpustakaan. Lots of double letters and R's in there, which uses the R trill. So I can say, saya pergi ke perpustakaan. I like to go to the library. But I digress. That's Bahasa, not Lingua Latina. So let's translate what we just read there and have a go at pronunciation. So we've got quis est Marcus? Marcus puer Romanus est. Quis pater Marci est? Julius pater Marci est. So quis est Marcus? So we have a question here. We've got a new word, quis. And we can deduce, and again based on what we're reading, that particularly from the next line here, that quis means who. That's what I'm picking up here. So who is Marcus? Marcus is, so we got Marcus is with the est, a Romanus, puer, a Roman boy. Puer meaning boy. So so who is Marcus? Marcus is a Roman boy. We see the adjective Romanus has the masculine ending because puer is male, it's masculine. That's why we see Romanus and not Romana, for example. And then we have another question. Quis pater Marci est? So who is the father of Marcus? Who is the father of Marcus? Okay, Magistra is going. Wale, has to go teach now. If you have any questions, DM you. Yep, this is a great thing you're doing. I hope you are recording it. Indeed I am. I am recording this, and I'm going to save it for myself. Might even put it up on the YouTube as well, so people can learn along with me in the future. Pick up all my mistakes. Allow people to comment. See how many mistakes people can pick up on my pronunciation in a single session. But yeah, it's great. It's great to have you on board and sharing your insights and trivia. That's awesome. So see you later. Enjoy your teaching lesson. Thank you to the senator for joining us. Always great to have such prestigious Nova Roman individuals join our channel. Greetings again to our good praetor Aurelius, who won his post in the most recent election. And a dear friend of the province of Australia. I guess Province Germania and Province Australia have a very close working relationship, where I guess a good praetor is also a legate in the region as well, working to grow that province. And it's great to have his experience on board. And as I stated earlier in the channel, he also likes to stream to this channel as well. So I normally do a variety stream on what is a Monday morning Rome time, and our good praetor likes to record where he can of all sorts of topics, be it political or be it gaming, like Total War Attila, for example. So be sure to keep an eye out for those streams when he comes on board. But yes, bene to our praetor. Anyway, let's continue with our lesson. So quis pater Marci est, and we see that genitive form of Marcus again. So who is the father of Marcus? And we answer the question in the next line, Ullius pater Marci est. So Ullius is the father of Marcus, and we see the genitive form of Marcus again there. So over in the I guess the grammar and the clues column here, so we see variations of the quis, which seems to vary based on the circumstance. So we've got quis and quae. So when we're talking about Marcus, masculine, we have quis est Marcus. But if we talk about the daughter, so Julia, we have quae est Julia. So who is Marcus and who is Julia or Julia. And then we see, I guess, what I am reading here is a masculine and feminine form. That's what I'm picking up here. So we say, quis est pater Marci, who is the father of Marcus, and that is masculine. So we see the quis again there, and then we say, quae est mater Marci. So who is the mother of Marcus, mater being feminine, quae, I guess, is the feminine form. So who is the mother of Marcus? All right, so let's listen to expert. Let's go on to page 14. So starting with quae est mater.
Qua est mater
Quae.
Marci? Mater Marci est Aemiliae. Qua est Julia? Julia est puella Romana. Quae mater Julia est? Aemilia mater Julia est. Pater Julia est Julius. Julia filia Julii est.
All right, let's have a go with what we've gone through there. So didn't catch the first part of that sentence. So, but essentially, I think it was quae est mater Marci, which based on the next sentence, I think that's it. So, quae est mater, quae est mater Marci, who is the mother of Marcus? Mater Marci est Aemilia. So the mother of Marcus, so the genitive possession form here. So Marcus's mother is Aemilia. So Marcus's mother is Aemilia. That's what that sentence more directly translates to. Quae est Julia? So who is Julia? Julia est puella Romana. So Julia is a Roman girl. Quae mater Juliae est? So who is Julia's mother? Or Julia's mother? So yes, right, the praetor says the literal would be Marcus' mother is Aemilia. Yes, so if we go really, really direct, yes, absolutely. Absolutely, that would be, the more direct translation. So Aemilia mater Juliae est. So Aemilia is Julia's mother. So Aemilia mater Juliae est. So then we say parto Juliae est Julius. So Ullia's father is Ullius. Very similar names, but noting the masculine and feminine form there. So that's how we differentiate those. So, right, lots of names flying around, but we're just taking it slowly, make sure we're not getting confused. But, right, we understand that Ullius is Ullia's father. So Marci is genitive again with, is the question who's Marcus. So if we go back up here, Marci is genitive. So I think, Marci was a part of the previous sentence on the previous page. So I think it said, quae est mater Marci, who is Marcus's mother? Quae est mater Marci? And then we answer that question with mater Marci est Amelia. Is that what you were referring to? While you answer that, we'll go to the next sentence down here, so line 19. So we have Ullia filia Uli est. So Ullia, the daughter, filia, the daughter, right, not to confuse ourselves. So Ullia, who is the daughter, so is the daughter of Ullius. So here's that genitive form of Ullius. Woo, lots of Ulli floating around. So that's saying that Ullia is the daughter of Ullius. Gotcha. All right, so let's go on to line 20. So we've got quae. Now, do we get up to that section? Let's have a listen.
Qui sunt
Great, so I'm glad we listened. So it's qui. It's pronounced qui. So we've got qui sunt.
filii Iulii. Filii Iulii sunt Marcus et Quintus. Marcus, Quintus, Iuliaque sunt res liberi. Libri sunt filii, filiaeque. Marcus et Quintus et Iulia sunt liberi Iulietae Emiliae.
Okay. Oh no, let's let him finish off.
In familia Iulii sunt res liberi. Duo filii et una filia.
Okay, so we've got qui. So on the left-hand side, we can see some explanation. So qui is a question. So qui sunt filii. We're trying to derive. So that appears. So we see the sunt, which means are, which usually means multiple objects. And we can see uliaque again. So we know that que ending means an and when there's a list. And we say filiaeque. So again, an and. Ending can be attached here, and we say duo, so it's reminding us of the number 2. So we've got qui sunt filii Uli. So we know that filii is going to be a plural here of likely to be based on the previous rules that we've seen of filius, which is son. So who are the sons of Ullius? And we see, I guess, is the genitive, is the way that I read that. So we've got qui. When we're talking about multiple, so we've got quis, que, and qui. So it appears that that appears to be a plural. So let's back up our assumption by reading on. So we've got filii Uli sunt Marcus et Quintus. So Julius's or Ullius's sons sunt Marcus and Quintus. So that makes sense. So I think we are right. So qui is the plural form of who in question form. So who are Julius's sons? Julius's sons, so filii Uli, the genitive form. So Julius's sons. So instead of apostrophe s like we'd have in English, how do they do it in German? Oh, good. I got a collar agrees. That's good. How do they do it in German or Deutsch? How do you represent, I guess, genitive or possession? Do you do an apostrophe s as well, like in English, or is that done differently? I don't know much German at all there, Preiter. I'd be interested to hear some German language trivia. Right, so Julius' sons are Marcus and Quintus. Great. Okay, so we have Marcus Quintus, illiquae sunt tres liberi. So we have Marcus and Quintus, and we know and que, that ending on the back of Ullia, so the daughter, so the 3 children are 3 liberi. And as the Magister pointed out before, we got a cheat card here. Liberi means children. And we could have derived that based on this sentence and the following sentences here. So we know that Marcus, Quintus, and Julia are children. Sunt tres liberi. So liberi sunt filii, filiaque. That's better. So libere sunt filii, filii. Lots. Oh boy, filii, filiaque. So the children liberi are sons and daughters. Filia. So we've got filii, sons, plural of filius, and filia, plural of daughters. Is that right? So the sons and daughters are children. That's what it's saying. The sons and daughters are children. So it's reinforcing the previous sentence there. So Marcus et Quintus et Julia sunt liberi Uli et Ameliae. So Marcus and Quintus and Julia. I'm going to say Julia when I translate to English. So Marcus and Quintus and Julia are the children of Julius and Amelia. Great. And then we have the last line there. In familia Uli sunt tres liberi, duo filii et una filia. So in the family, Julius, or in Julius's family, so we see that genitive and it's being used as an adjective here. So in Julius's family, there are 3 children. So it's sunt tres liberi, there are 3 children, duo filii et una filia. So 2 sons, filii, which is a plural of filius, so plural of sons, et, and una filia. So we have the feminine form of the number 1, filia, 1 daughter. So the description, the adjective agrees with the noun filia, 1 daughter. And so that all makes sense. So that's pretty good. So we're continuing to describe the family. So in familia Uli sunt tres liberi, duo filii et una filia. So in Julius's family there are 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. Whew, okay. That's difficult, but we're getting there. That's very good. Let's continue on.
Est medus filius Julii? Medus filius Julii non est. Medus est servus Julii. Julius Dominus medi est. Julius Dominus servi est. Davus quoque servus est. Medus et Davus duo servi sunt. Julius est Dominus medi et Davi.
All right. So based on the names I'm seeing here, remembering the image at the beginning of the chapter, we're being introduced to what they appear to be the slaves. So esne, the question. So este medus filius Uli. So it's a question. So is medus, one of the male adult slaves, is he a son of Julius? Filius meaning singular, singular son. So is medus a son of Julius? And then we answer the question. Medus filius Uli non est, medus est servus Uli. So he's saying medus is not non, so non est is not a son of Julius. We say that medus is a servant of Julius, and we see the genitive here, so or is Julius's servant. So medus est servus Uli. Medus is Julius's servant. Okay. Julius Dominus medi est. So Julius is the master or the boss of medi est. So Julius is medus's boss. Is what that reads. So again, the genitive form here. Julius Dominus servi est. So Julius. Now that's interesting. Julius dominus servi est. Julius is a servant boss. Essentially has servants. That's an interesting line. It's probably the first one that's really stopped me. Ullius dominus servi est. So Julius is the servant's boss. So servi, I suspect, is the genitive form of servant. And it's implying that he is the boss of the slaves. I'm saying servant, I meant slaves. It should be slaves. That's what they were in those times. So Medus is Julius' slave, and Julius is the boss of Medus. I don't know if dominus means boss, but that's the word I'm using here. So Ullius is the slave boss. So we've got Davus quoque servus est. So we've got Davus, another one of the slaves, is also is a slave, is what that line says. So Medus et Davus duo servi sunt. So here's that servi again. So let's see if we can deduce if we are correct. So we've got Medus and Davus, so two of the slaves are two slaves. That's what that's reading. I'm translating it before I get there. So Medus and Davus are two slaves. So servi is plural. So Julius, so let's go back to that interesting line. So Julius dominus, so Ullius dominus servi est. Yeah, that's better. That's much better there, Agricola. Yeah, dominus means master. Yeah, and that certainly makes sense for this context as well. Thanks. That's the word I'm searching for. So Julius is the master of slaves. Is what I read there. So Julius is the master of slaves, and we say that Davus is also a slave. So Medus and Davus are two slaves. Ullius et dominus Medi et Davi. So Julius is the master of both Medus and Davus. Is I guess that next line, and then we have Ullius dominus Surum est et pater liberorum. Did we get to that line in the sentence?
Julius dominus servorum et pater liberorum.
Liberorum. Okay. Ullius dominus servorum est et pater liberorum. So what I'm picking up here is the master Julius. We talk about servorum, so that's I guess a slight new word, but it looks very similar to what we've seen before. And is the father of. So it appears that he is the slave master and a father of children. That's what I think I'm picking up here. So it's continuing to enforce Julius's roles. So Julius is the slave master. So dominus servorum est, or est dominus servorum, et and pater liberorum. So and a master and the father of children. And I think Agricola agrees. Okay. All right. Let's hear the from line 30. Here we go.
Est ne Delia filiae Emiliae? Delia non est filiae Emiliae? Delia ancilla Emilia est. Aemilia domina Delia est. Aemilia domina ancilla est. Syra quoque ancilla est. Delia et syra duae ancillae sunt. Aemilia domina ancillarum st.
Okay, let's see what we got introduced to here. So we've got a question to begin with. Estne Delia filia Aemiliae. So it's, I guess, rephrasing some very in a similar context, but from the context of the major woman or the mother of the household, Aemilia. So it's asking if Delia, one of the slaves, is a daughter of Aemilia. Is Delia, a daughter of Amelia. And then we go on to say, Delia non est filia Ameliae. Delia Ancilla, that's better. Delia Ancilla Ameliae est. So Delia is not a daughter of Amelia. Delia is, and we see this word Ancilla. Now, not sure what Ancilla is yet here, but let's read on and see if there's a clue. Amelia domina Deliae est. So I read that as Amelia is the master of Delia. So we're seeing a feminine version of the word dominus, which is domina, and that makes sense because Amelia is a woman. So Amelia is the master of Delia. Amelia domina Anciliae est. So Amelia is the something master, and we know that, and we see that relationship of word up here. Delia Ancilia Ameliae est. Sira quoque Ancilla est. So another one of the female slaves is also a Ancilla. And then we have Delia et Sira duae Anciliae sunt. So both Delia and Sira are two. So duae, and we see over here some help. So duo, duae, and duo. So a duo servi, so two slaves. Duae, so Anciliae, so a different, so plural. So Ancilla and Ancillae, so we have singular and plural, okay, and duo opida. So in terms of opida, we use duo, duae for Anciliae, so they agree, okay. So it's telling us about the endings and the relationships, okay. Amelia domina Anciliarum est. Interesting. I just want to go back a bit. So based on the context of the previous context with Julius. So we talked about in the last sentence. So Julius is the master of the slaves, or slave master, and he is a father of the children. And then we're talking about Amelia domina Anciliarum est. So okay, there we go. So I was going to have a guess that it meant female slave. I guess I wasn't 100% sure, but that's definitely what Agricola has picked up. So Anciliarum or Anciliae is, let's go back to the singular. So Ancilla is female slave. So we've got servus, which is a male slave, and Ancilla, female slave. Okay, there we go. So that's definitely a new word for me here, Ancilla. Right, and I guess we could probably deduce that based on we're talking about the females and the males separately with Julius and Amelia. So we have Amelia domina Anciliarum est. So Amelia is the female slave master, is what we're reading there in that last line. Okay. All right, line 35. Here we go.
Sunt. Aemilia domina Ancillarum.
There we go. That was that last line.
Cuius servus est Davus. Davus servus Iulii est. Cuius Ancilla est Syra. Syra est Ancilla Aemiliae. Right,
so if it wasn't clear before, it might have become clearer soon. So we got cuius servus est Davus. So we have a question here. So again, it's trying to give us some clues over here. So cuius is a question, and it's referring to uli or Ameliae, which are the genitive. So it's implying possession. So who are the no, not who. So we're referencing Davus, which is one of the slaves. Interesting. So let's see if that becomes clearer. I don't have the direct translation to cuius yet. Let's see if we can pick it up. So cuius servus est Davus. Davus servus uli est. So we're saying the answer to that question is Davus is Julius's slave. So that question is really asking, who is Dawus the slave of? Right, so cuius is essentially implying a possession according to slaves. So who owns? So who owns the slave that is Dawus? Is what I'm reading there. Yeah, see, right. So Agricola thinks it's a who's, and that's the initial vibe I got was sort of a who, but yeah, it was interesting to read this. I guess the explanation on the side here is a cuius, and it's referring to the genitive forms of both Julius and Aemilia. So I guess a possession. So maybe it's a variation of who. So we might be right, or you might be right. Agricola. It's a possession of. It's talking about. It's a who question. So quisque or cui, but it implies a possession-based answer. So cuius servus est Dawus. So who owns? Yeah, really, when you read that. So Dawus is a slave. Is yeah, interesting. Let's think on that. I might have a tea. You have a tea drink as well. Right. So Agricola said whose, not whose. Right. So that changes context a little bit. Let's have a think about that. Cuius servus et Dawus. Whose slave is Dawus? Yeah, cuius. I'd like to get a different meaning to that. But yeah, who essentially owns the slave that is Dawus? And we say that Dawus is Julius's slave. Okay, let's read on. Let's see if we get more of a clue. So, cuius ancilla est Sira. Sira est ancilla Aemiliae. So, who is the female slave? Sira. And the Sira, the female slave, is a female slave of Aemilia. Okay, interesting. Still not 100% sure on cuius. But right, it's meaning a who or a whose. Perhaps a possessive form of answer is expected. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's roll on. Let's see what we get. I'm gonna press the right button. Here we go.
Quod liberi sunt in familia? In familia Iulii sunt res liberi. Quod filii et quod filiae? Duo filii et una filia. Quod servi sunt in familia? In familia sunt centum servi.
All right, let's ease that up there and let's step through that. So we have a new word, quot. And we have a clue over here on the left-hand side. So quot, which is another type of question. So we're getting the who, what, where, why, aren't we, when we're going through the book? So we're at the quot now. And we see 1, 2, 3, or unos, duo, tres. So we can have quot filii, quot filiae, quot oppida, and centum, which is actually centum, if we pronounce the C correctly, means 100. So we can have, really, it's how many is what I'm getting there. So how many filii, so how many sons, how many daughters, how many cities is what I'm potentially picking up here, with centum meaning 100. So let's see if that makes sense based on our guess there. So quot liberi sunt in familia? How many children are in the family? And we can know that off the top of our heads, which is tres. So in familia Uli sunt tres liberi. So in Julius's family, so Uli is the possessive genitive form here again. Sunt tres liberi. There are 3 children. Good job. All right. Quot filii et quot filiae? How many sons and how many daughters? And we can say duo filii et una filia. So 2 sons, the plural of filius, so it's filii, 2 sons, and et una filia, 1 daughter. So una, the adjective agreeing with the noun filia, which is feminine, so we get the feminine version of the number 1, which is una with an A ending instead of US. So we have 2 sons and 1 daughter. Okay. Quot servi sunt in familia? In familia sunt centum servi. How many slaves are in the family? In the family, there are 100. There are 100 slaves in the family, is what I read there. Centum, 100. So apparently there are 100 slaves in this family. Is that what I'm reading correctly? Is that what else people say? Quot servi sunt in familia? How many slaves are in the family? Agricola agrees. In familia sunt centum servi. And we spelled it out. So in familia, so in the family, sunt, which is centum, we're told over here on the left hand side is 100. Servi, which is the plural of servus, which is slaves. There are 100 slaves. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of slaves. That's a lot. So in familia uli sunt multi servi pauci liberi. So in Julius's family there are many slaves and few children. Pauci, which we know is the opposite of multi. Pauci, and it says the ending is I or e, to agree with the noun, which is liberi, which is the plural form, so they have to agree. So in familia uli sunt multi servi pauci liberi. In Julius's family there are many slaves, few children. Okay, so Julius est dominus multorum servorum. Julius is the master of many slaves, is what I read there, and that statement would agree with the in familia sunt centum servi. If he's got 100 slaves, he would be the master of many slaves. And multorum servum. So slaves here, we have a neuter version. So therefore, multi has to agree. The adjective has to agree with the noun here. So we have multorum, which is why we get the um ending in here to match that. Then we have duo. He might tell us about the pronunciation next. Here we go.
In familia Iulii sunt multi servi, pauci liberi. Iulius est dominus multorum servorum. Duo.
So make sure I get that pronunciation correctly. Servorum. Servorum. There was a couple of an extra syllable in there that I didn't have, I think, in my pronunciation. Okay, let's let him continue on. I think we might finish up here after this next sentence. We've been going for about 2 3/4 hours now. It's a pretty good Latin lesson, I think. A long lesson for sure. So let's finish this last sentence on a strong note, and we might wrap up our Latin stream there. So here we go. Let's have a look.
Et tres numeri sunt. Centum quoque numerus est. Numerus servorum centum.
So we have duo et tres numeri sunt, centum quoque numerus est. Numerus servorum est centum. So we have duo, so it has some emphasis here. So 2, et, and 3 are numbers, and we know numeri is the plural of numerus. So 2 and 3 are numbers. We have centum, which we know is 100 from the left-hand side over here. Centum quoque numerus est. And there we go. There's the singular for number. So we have numerus est. So 100 is also a number. I agree. Numerus servorum est centum. So the number of slaves is 100. So we're confirming here what the number is, and we are reinforcing that there are, in fact, the number of slaves is 100. Is the way I read that. Rightio, I think that was pretty clean. That was, at least in the beginning and the end. In the middle there, we lots of filii, filiae, uliae, ulia, you know, lots of adjectives changing, and particularly the genitive form of a lot of words can get quite confusing. But this was really good. So we've still got the other half of the chapter to go. So what we're going to do is in the next time I jump on, and I might actually do this later in the week, depending on how things go. You know, depending on my family life and things here. I continue with my Latin lesson, so we'll revise the first half of this chapter again to make sure we're comfortable with it, and then move on to the second half of this chapter to finish off. And then we might all step through the homework that the Magistra has sent us together, or you can watch me attempt the homework anyway. But great, I really am enjoying this. It's you know, if you're watching on the stream for other than Agricola. Yeah, not Friday if possible. Yeah, good idea. Yeah, I think I'm busy Friday as well. This book is entirely in Latin, but I think in about 99.5% of the cases, we're able to very quickly deduce the meanings of words, or at least close enough so we can get an understanding or grasp of the context in the sentence. So we're 1.5 chapters deep, and we've got a large vocabulary already. We've learnt about geography of Imperium Romanum, and we're learning about a family here. We're learning about the possessive genitive case, and we only know that because the Magistra told us that's what it was. We're learning about the different ending rules, but depending on whether something is in something or not, or whether it's masculine or feminine or neuter, having the adjectives agree with the nouns. So although it's not explicitly stating these rules in such finite words, it's certainly implying that, and it's giving us those clues in the side margin. That's the word I was looking for, margin. And of course, when we're all doing it together, we can certainly come to the conclusion of the meaning of a word much quicker. So yeah, thanks to Agricola for his help. Yeah, it was master. What did I say before? That was I can't recall, but we got there in the end. That was really good. Yeah, good lesson, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for those who followed today. If you're watching this later, be it on Twitch or YouTube, please drop a comment if you can. Send us a message either through Twitch here as a personal DM, or you can contact us via email. The email's all over Twitch as well, and down in the About section below. So that's ostnovaroma@outlook.com, AUST Novaroma, all one word or lowercase, at outlook.com. Look, we'd love to get in touch with you and hear about all things Roman from you and what your passions are, and particularly if you speak Latin as well. It would be great to hear from you. Please join our Discord. The link's in the About section below. Well, that is it for a Monday evening Australia time, or about a early to mid-afternoon Rome time. Thanks for joining us here on the All Roman Twitch channel. Until next time, Walete.